Thank you. Press the record button. Are we ready? Are you ready?
Ready?
Between
Always
two
ready.
ferns.
That would be great. That would be epic. That would be epic.
Ready for making the drive and coming to join us. We are very happy to have Corey Kaplan here with us today. We're gonna ask him a couple questions. And
Who's Corey Kaplan?
who is Corey Kaplan? That's a very good question.
Some asshole.
So for those of you who don't know, Corey is one of the corporate owners, the mothership. They don't like to call themselves corporate. Corey, what's your official title in corporate?
My official title is, what is my official title? Chief of Agent Engagement. So I do a lot of the, well, 99% of the recruiting for franchise and for agents is how it started, recruiting for agents in Central PA when we first opened, and then kind of turned into recruiting franchisees and recruiting. Just recruiting. I like recruiting.
He likes people.
I like people.
He likes people. He's our male version of our wonderful Christy Knox.
We're very similar.
Very similar.
She's way better looking than I am.
But
Can you ask if everybody can hear okay at home before we get too deep?
can everybody at home hear us okay? We have microphones that we can speak into if we need to.
Nobody's complaining about
Okay,
it.
good.
Nice.
Anyway, so we wanted to ask Corey here today because Corey has, Corey's really inspirational. So for those of you that don't know him, Corey comes from, well, we're gonna let him tell the story, but he comes from a pretty crappy past and he's overcome it. And he's really built himself up to be a pretty amazing guy that we really value and cherish having beside us every day. So Corey, let's go ahead. Let's talk about where you came from.
So I was born in 1977. Now, I'm not going to go all the way back to that, but I will give you a little history into that. But hey, thanks for having me here too. Thanks for bringing me in. As a young kid, small town USA, my mom moved me to an area that was predominantly white. I'm biracial. Not that that matters, but it does for this communication, this conversation. So, lived in a town, Lebanon, Pennsylvania, small town, but there were Hispanic and Black kids in the town. My mom said, hey, let's move to Myerstown because this will be a better life for Corey. Moved to Myerstown, KKK is walking down the street. This is in the 80s, fighting every day from the age of 14 till, 25. The N-word would come out of somebody's mouth and I was knocking them out. I mean, I turned into the kind of the stereotype of what everybody thought I should be, so I kind of was never comfortable in my own skin, being in an all-white community, having a white mom and a white stepdad who adopted me. So I never knew the Black side of my family. So I struggled with kind of figuring out who I was as a Black man, in a world that wasn't conducive to being who I was. So struggle. Was a decent athlete, so that always kind of helped me to stay ahead of the crowd for that reason, because I was decent at football, baseball, all those things. Started, and I'm going right into, there's a whole lot more into this story, but I'm giving you the abridged version. High school, started smoking weed, the usual thing that a lot of kids do. Realized that I liked how it made me feel, and I liked to drink. And I remember my very first drink. My biological father was an alcoholic and drug addict, Vietnam vet. My mom would always say, if you do these things, you're going to fall into what your dad did. You're going to fall into the same thing. And I remember my very first drink, I think I was 14. I remember saying, here we go. That was my exact words, which is crazy to think that you would say that. And I remember smoking a joint and drinking a beer at 14. And from that point on, it was a party. I mean, I was partying every second I could get. I could party, running from who I was as a person and hanging out with people that were doing stupid stuff. So I went from Pennsylvania. My mom, I'm giving you all the details, but it's cool. So my mom, when I was young, was dating a guy when I was 12 years old, prior to my adopted dad. When I was like 6 years old, was dating a guy that she worked with at the VA hospital. And I remember the day, I think I was in like kindergarten or something, that he left her because I was biracial. So this is something I should have gone back and said, but So said, well, I'm leaving this guy, or I'm basically breaking up with you. I remember the whole conversation. I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind. He was saying to my mom, I can't be with you because my family are racist. They're from the South. And I remember my mom being upset, and they were sitting in my toy box in my bedroom. And fast forward to 16, my mom and Steve Kaplan are getting a divorce. I'm already in trouble, partying, doing stupid stuff, not listening to anybody. And she said, we're moving to Maryland, and I'm pregnant with your sister. And it's from the guy that, that dude I was just telling you about from kindergarten. So she was getting back with this guy who left her. So, that hurt. I mean, that hurt as a kid. So from that point on, I lashed out like crazy and started DJing electronic music and hip hop. Started going to Baltimore, to Philly, getting involved in the rave scene in both of those areas. So I'm giving you the longer version.
We love it. It's good.
So, but it all ties together. So in the rave scene, I found a home, and I felt like these are my people, peace, love, all that kind of stuff, and started to make a name for myself as a DJ in Baltimore. And I was playing at Club BBC in Philly, Baltimore, New York. I was like, this is going to be my life. But that lifestyle, again, with the drugs and everything else, it just turned into the next thing and then the next thing. And I started selling ecstasy. So I was selling 2,000 pills of ecstasy a week, from Baltimore to wherever, at guys working for me in the nightclubs. And, anything I could do that was the wrong thing is what I did, So basically, at the end of all of this, a girl I was dating that I was in love with, I'm throwing up air quotes, we were engaged at 18. I think we were 18 or 19. She said, Corey, I want to try heroin. And I remember saying to her, and I was never physically violent to women. I was never that guy. But I remember grabbing her like this and saying, do you realize that's it? Like, that's the end. That's the end of all of this stuff. And she's like, no, but such and such is doing it and they're fine. And I'm like, well, okay, let's do it. So I'm in love with you, so I'm going to do it. So I ended up sniffing heroin with her that night. That was the beginning of a horrible 6-7 year run where I was on the street. I was literally robbing drug dealers 4 months into being on heroin at gunpoint in Baltimore City. Kid from Myerstown, Pennsylvania, who thought he was a tough guy here. Baltimore's that's a different animal. And I was running on the streets of East Baltimore, abandoned houses, robbing drug dealers, robbing stores, In the first year of that life, I mean, I obviously lost everything, had no car, had nothing. I was boosting on a daily basis to support my habit. And I'm talking, I never did anything small. I could never just do like anything little. I had to do the dumbest and the worst thing I could do. So I had a group of guys that would go out to different areas and we would steal whatever. And we were stealing $30,000 to $50,000 of merchandise a day. Then we would take it to a fence in Baltimore who would buy it for half price. So my addiction obviously got worse and worse and worse through all of that. Eventually, my picture started showing up at all these stores that we were stealing things from. So I started getting locked up. And once that started, it was like every week I was going to jail for petty theft, So I think in and out of jail, in and out of jail, in and out of jail. And the last one, the worst one that I remember is I was doing about 25 bags of heroin a day, as much cocaine as I could get my hands on. And I went in there for 30 days, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're kicking dope, that was horrible. So I just remember I didn't sleep for 2 weeks. I did not sleep at all. I literally sat there and just banged my head against the concrete wall in the jail cell. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is the dumbest thing you could do. Got out it was about 2.5 weeks because you're 30 days, they give you good time. So did about half my time. Got out 5 minutes after I got out, I was copping dope and right back at it again. So, and that went on for years till came to Pennsylvania, went through a discipleship program in Lebanon, Pennsylvania called Jubilee Ministries. Was there for a year, was doing all the right things for the most part. But my counselor at the time was like, Corey, you're going to give up the music and are you going to give up the women? Because I was still had a girlfriend and we weren't supposed to. And I was like, no, I'm not giving up the music and I'm not giving up the woman that I was dating. I said, I'm sorry. It's like, I know what I need to do. I was like, but I'm 20, at that time I was 24. I was like, I just don't feel like I'm ready, and 3 months later, I was right back at it. And this time I took off to Seattle, Washington, because I found out that my son was going to be born. So the good guy that I was, ran. I ran to Washington State. So I'm in Washington, and one day I'm looking at myself in the mirror in a car, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that child does not deserve to come into this world the way that I did, I need to man up and be a man and go back and handle my responsibility. A whole lot more things happened in Washington. I robbed a lot of robbing going on. I ended up robbing a crypt out there of a kilo of meth. So not a wise thing to do, So came back to Pennsylvania. The next day I was on a train back to Pennsylvania. I sat in the Lebanon County Jail for 6 months. And in that time, I just kept having these moments of clarity where I'm sitting across the table from a guy that's 55 years old, biracial, and he's saying, I'm going to stop this time. And it was like the room stopped. I'm like, that's me. Everybody in here is saying the same exact thing. We're all telling the same story. And we're all a bunch of kids that never grew up, that had hurt, whatever the hurt was when we were young, whatever that pain that didn't heal. We're all a bunch of kids in here, growing kids. That's really what it is. So I got out. It was a 180, complete 180. I just didn't do the things I used to do. And the people would approach me. I was like, I don't want to live that life, So am I supposed to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when I got out, my wife and I got together. Obviously things were okay. I took a job at McDonald's because I couldn't find a job. And I humbled myself to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm not too good for anything. It doesn't matter. I need to work. I need to do whatever it is that's the right thing. So I tell kids all the time now, it's just the next right thing. I don't care how little it is. And it may seem like you're not going to get anywhere with that dumb little next move, but they build and they build and they build and they build. So
let's go back a step.
Yeah.
So when you left,
sorry,
that's okay. When you left Pennsylvania to go out to Washington,
Yeah,
you had a baby on the way.
I did. Mhm.
Did you then get out of jail and
So I got out okay. So it's a Jerry Springer episode. Would you like to hear the whole Jerry Springer episode? All right. So yeah, I tell everybody anyway. So it is what it is. So my son's mom, my son Donovan, who we got custody of when he was 5, was a girl that I hung out with. It was pretty much one night. My wife I met shortly after hanging out, right? Who was also pregnant, and it ended up being her ex. So we have 2 kids that were pretty much very close together. So yeah, Jerry Springer, but so Erica had Kira, and my son Donovan was born. So when I got out, I wasn't able to see him. I had to do supervised visits. I had to do all of those things. And I ended up getting custody of him when he was 5 because I kept doing the right thing and, continued. And it was done. I'll tell you right now, if it wasn't for my kids, I don't know that I'd be here. If it
so that
wasn't
was
for
my
my
next
kids.
question.
Yeah.
What inspires you? Who were your inspirations and
My
to do better?
my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to be emotional, but that is yeah. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here.
So okay, so we get out of jail and you get a job at McDonald's.
I took the job at McDonald's.
Okay.
The day I took the job at McDonald's, the Hershey Pantry, which is a restaurant in Hershey, called me. So I ended up taking that job, and it was like the right time. They were all older women that worked there, and it was a day shift job. I switched. Like if I worked at night before, I was always in the restaurant business. I was always night. So I was like, I'm going to work during the day, and by 5 o'clock, I'm in the house. Like I completely switched my whole process. But those ladies I worked with for 5 years in that restaurant were like my mothers. They were always like, Corey, you need to do this. And I'm like, okay. And it ended up, it was the best place for me at that time. So yeah, they were great. I ended up going there. From there, I ended up getting in the car business. Because one of the owners of a local car dealership would come in and say, Corey, you would be great working with clients. You'd be great in the car business. So you can promise me $600 a week. I laugh at this now. Guarantee. He's like, I'll do it. He's like, done. So I started the dealership in Harrisburg, and I think I sold 25 cars my first month. And I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this, sales thing. And then from there, I was in the car business for years, did finance and sales management and all of the things in the car business. So
Okay, so then let's fast forward.
Yeah.
Why real estate?
originally, this sounds funny to say now, but real estate for me was less time than the car business. I mean, I missed baseball games. I missed everything with my kids early on. And I wanted to stop doing that. Like I wanted to be able to be at all their stuff. So for me, real estate was a way to get into, be able to see my kids more and kind of make my own schedule. When I got into real estate, Adam actually came into the dealership I worked for, my business partner, Adam. And I don't think he was really looking for cars, to be honest. I think he was out there looking for salespeople. But he would always like just come on the lot and look around and not do anything ever. So very Adam-like. So he said, you would be good in real estate. I'm like, yeah, but there's so many real estate agents, all the stories that everybody tells you, he's like, well, you should call me. So I ended up going to Berkshire Hathaway. I didn't call Adam. I ended up at Berkshire Hathaway, was there for 1 week, and it felt very much like a job when I had just left. I was tired of the car business, making money for someone else, right? They changed my pay plan every other month when I would do well. Then they'd switch it so that you couldn't hit that number again. Like it was just shady. So I was like, I want to write my own ticket. And my sales manager was like, real estate, it's really hard. You're not going to be successful. You're this, you're that. And he used to always tell me to be content. You should just be content. It's like, I'm making 60 grand a year. I was like, I can't be content. Not that that's bad. I'm just saying, I don't want to be content and make 60 grand a year. I have a family. So I see that guy today and he won't talk to me about business. I think it's hilarious. He will not. He refuses to talk to me about business. And I always say to him, hey, I'm still not content. I'm still not content. So, but yeah, so got into Iron Valley, was the 8th agent with the first office in Lebanon, sold 20 some homes my first year. At the end of that, Adam said to me, hey, would you have interest in partnering? And I was like, are you an idiot? I've been doing this for 8 months. He's like, you're good with people. We got together and here we are.
Here we go.
Here we are.
Here we are.
That was the not well rehearsed version. Sorry, guys.
All right, so rumor has it, you are currently enrolled in college classes.
I sort of am not right now, but
Okay.
I was, and I'm going to be back again. So I took my daughter to Penn State when she started. She's in her 2nd year now, and I'm walking around the campus, and I'm like, why was I such an idiot? Why did I not do this? And I got a little jealous, I'll be honest. I'm proud of her and happy for her, but I was like, man, this is dumb. Why did I not do this? And I always had an interest in psychology, and I still love it. So I said, I'm going back to school. So I been finished 1 semester. So I have a lot more to go. But we just opened an office in Maryland, so I'm kind of focusing on that right now. I don't have time to do school and that at the same time.
Where do you see yourself using your psychology degree?
At some point, just helping other people, when I can kind of kick back and not be the real estate guy anymore, doing that. But it also helps me in my day-to-day conversations and, psychology, sales, it's all together. It's all the same thing.
It's all people.
It's all people.
Yeah, it's all people. Okay, so
I'm gonna start asking you questions.
no, you're not. That's not fair. That's not gonna happen.
That's nice, Mark.
No. Knowing your background and knowing everything that you went through,
Mhm.
would you change anything?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think, like I said to you early, I think the things I would change are the people that I hurt and the damage that I did to relationships along the way. But it's made me who I am. It made me super grateful for my life, made me grateful for what I have. Where I don't think a lot of people get that perspective, like of how bad it can be, you know what I mean? To how good it is, and that to me, life is a blessing. I'm not trying to be weird, but it is a blessing, you know, every day that we have is a blessing. So yeah, I would never change
Well,
it.
it shaped you into the man that you are, and it helped shape your children into the people that they are, because they know the struggle that dad went through, and those,
100%.
that's something that's gonna stick with them all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know as a parent, my kids know my past, and they're not going to do certain things because mom went through it.
Right.
So it's, yeah, it makes you, as hard as what it is to sit and think about.
I think the coolest thing for me is that generational curse, if you want to call it that. It's been broken in our family. That's gonna be emotional too. I'm gonna keep crying today. But to watch all my kids are successful. I mean, they're all doing what they need to do in their life, and it's because I didn't continue the life that I was living.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. All right, guys, what questions do you have for Corey?
I hope none.
No, lots of questions. It's like, what would you like to know about him?
Do you know your birth father? Do you meet, do you
I-
have a relation?
So I met him the first time when I was 17. I actually, my mom, like a last ditch effort to try to help me, you know, at that point was like, oh, I'm gonna hook you up with your dad. So I flew to Iowa, got off the plane, and I knew immediately who he was. Like I'd never seen him before. Knew that that was him. And 5 minutes off the plane, we were at a bar drinking, saying, don't end up like me. That was, you know, even as a 17-year-old kid, you're thinking, I want to throw football with my dad, or, you know, you still want to have that father-son relationship. And it was never in the cards there for him. But what did change my attitude towards him, I was so angry and hated him, and, you know, went through all of that. At 30, he got cancer when I was 30. He had cancer in his mouth. We went to Iowa to see him. It was myself, my wife, and my daughter, Rainey. I have a cold. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not trying to. Some of it is emotion. Some of it is I just have a cold. So we flew to Iowa, and I saw him in a different light than I'd ever seen him before. Like he's human, and I knew he was laying in the bed after surgery, and I looked at him and I was like, "You started crying." It's like, "Hey, Pop, I gotta go." Went out to the car and I cried like a baby for like an hour, and I'd let go of all of that. You know, it was kind of a cool experience. And then I forgave him. I just forgave him. I was like, you know, I don't know now that I know what happened in his life because of Ancestry DNA. I met all that side of my family from Georgia, and I know everybody, and I've heard the stories. It was sad. His story is sad, you know. So you're not going to be a good dad if you don't have good people in your life to kind of, you know, put you in the right direction. So yeah, he passed away at 58. So yeah,
Do you have any brothers and sisters to him?
I
That you've met?
have. I think so. Yeah, I think so. I have two stepbrothers, and a stepsister out there, and the sister is a stripper, and the brothers are both in prison for murder.
Mhm.
So, you know, my mom would always say, Corey, I had to get you out of there. She did the best thing that she could, because I probably would have been right there in the mix with those guys doing the same thing.
So you overcame the odds.
She's still alive, your mother?
My mother?
Yeah.
Yeah, my mother's still alive.
You still see her?
We were actually just talking like right before this.
Yeah.
We have our moments, her and I, but yeah, we have a decent relationship.
Kristen Murray online says, what does content look like to you?
What does content look like to me? Well, as a picture for me, content would be sitting with my crew around a fire in the backyard. That's contentment for me. I mean, just having my family together. Contentment as a whole, I don't know that I'm ever super completely content ever. That's my personality. I just don't know that I'm ever 100% content. So
Just
I am in my family. I mean, I'm in my relationship. I am there, but contentment in my life, I'm always looking for what's the next thing to do, you know, or try to do, or hurt myself doing, you know, whatever it is. Did I answer that question okay?
She's
Yeah.
online, so.
Yeah. Talk to us about your hobbies. What do you like to do when you're not building offices and recruiting agents?
I like music a lot. Music is my woosah for sure. So whether it's trying to play guitar or trying to play piano or trying to play drums or playing hand drums or DJing, I'm into all of the electronic music still. I don't go to raves anymore. It's 48 years old, but I still like the music and I still like to create music. And so I think music is number one. Travel is another one I love to do, and then family. Not in any specific order there, but travel's one of my favorite things to do.
You're an avid snowboarder.
Snowboarding, that was coming.
Yeah,
Snowboarding is my favorite. I mean, my son and I,
beside, ahead of music, right?
snowboarding's probably ahead of music.
Okay.
Well, it's pretty even. I'd say it's pretty even, but yeah, snowboarding is my 14-year-old and my passion. So we do that together, which is an awesome thing to be able to do with your kid.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what does an average day look like in your world?
That's a tough one. So
Or-
it depends on the day.
Or week, like
Depends
in
on
your
the day.
position with Iron Valley, and what does that look like?
Well, right now it consists of me driving to Maryland usually 3 or 4 days a week. So it's an hour and a half in the car on the way to the office. First off, waking up when I'm being good, working out. Since I quit nicotine, I think I've gained 30 pounds and I'm struggling a little bit there, but we'll get back to it. Gym usually in the morning, drive to Maryland, make phone calls on the way, recruiting calls or whatever. After 9 o'clock, you don't call before 9 o'clock. Drop my son off at school, obviously before that. Then it's recruit, meetings with agents in Maryland, making phone calls on the way back, franchise calls, usually, setting up franchise appointments or recruiting appointments on the way. I'm on the phone all the time. That's pretty much, I'm usually on the phone 99% of the day. So. And then weekends are usually, if it's nice, fun, doing things outside, Yeah.
So I know what it takes to be on the phone 99% of the day.
Mhm.
And when I get home, everybody wants to talk.
Oh, man, yeah, that's a tough one.
I mean,
That's a tough one.
how do you flip that switch from I'm tired, I just need to, because it's emotionally taxing when you give all that, right?
Yeah.
How do you keep reserves, or do you find that sometimes the well runs dry?
My wife is watching this right now. I'm gonna get shot, but there's time.
No.
But she will eventually.
We'll make certain we send.
My wife's a nurse, so her life is way more stressful than doing real estate or selling franchises, whatever it be. She's dealing with people's lives. There's stuff that's actually happening. And some days I'm like, I don't want to hear about it. And that's horrible, right?
Right.
But I'm being honest, I just can't take any more communication. So what I do, I try to not do that. I try to be available.
Yeah.
And I've gotten good at going like this. No, I'm just. No, I listen. I try to listen to my wife, most times, but sometimes I'll hop in the hot tub and just give me an hour just to
Yeah.
I can't talk to anyone right now. And there's those days, and there's days that I can handle it and I'm good, but there's days that I don't want to talk to anyone when I get home, it's.
Do you try and set boundaries, like after this time, phone's off?
I never used to, but I do now. Yeah, and that's in the last year. I've started my phone is put away. Even with social media, I don't use social media at all like I did. I was obsessed with social media and wasting so many hours of time posting stupid crap that nobody cares about. And, so I finally, for you guys, you need to post though. Post. Because you're wasting time. You're wasting time, the time that you have with your family. So, for you in real estate, you need to post. You need to post.
Posting's one thing, but I think there's a fine balance that we all need to have, whether you're a corporate owner, a franchise owner, or an agent. To have that life, you've got to be able to find that
Balance.
life balance. Because if you're sacrificing one, then what's the point of doing the other?
Right.
So.
online. Lana said, what are you looking for specifically when you're recruiting? What kind of recruit you think are you looking for?
It depends on what capacity. We talk about real estate agents.
Get when you're recruiting agents? Well, speak to both franchises, owners, as well as, because we may have some future owners.
So that's very true. So I think that's a good question. So I think sometimes when you're making recruiting calls, I'm going off of Maryland right now because I've reopened that office down there and I'm making calls there. You can tell when somebody gets it, you know, and I think with both, with franchise and with our Iron Valley, you know, when someone gets it, it's not a sale. You know what I mean? It's an easier conversation. So I think, I'm looking for somebody that's doing business. Obviously, we want agents that are doing business. This model works best for going after the agents that are doing business when you first open, right? And then you start to add on the newer agents as you grow. I think we're capable of doing both at this point. I think we have, the ability to cater to new agents and to, the seasoned agents as well. But I'm kind of looking for somebody that is a self-starter that's going to do it. And I know that they have that ability to do it. I don't know if I answered the question or not.
What about this franchise owner?
Looking for someone, again, that's somebody that gets it. I've had so many franchise calls that I'm having to explain like the nuances. And I'm like, if you don't understand that, then this isn't going to work. Like, well, how do you, it doesn't make much, like they'll ask like weird questions that if you don't understand and see the model and see the plan, then it's not going to work for you. And I've learned that anybody that I'm having to explain the basic nuances to, it's not going to work. And usually it doesn't. So.
Okay, guys, what other questions? I know you all have them.
So early in your life, you wrecked a lot of relationships, it sounds like.
Oh,
How
ton.
did you get into real estate and this car business? The sphere of influence is like my main source.
Yeah.
With yours having trust issues, how did you kind of get over that?
That's a good
Great
question.
question.
I'll tell you, man, I was the biggest liar, cheat, thief that there was. And I had to physically say to people, I'm lying. Like I literally, because I told so many stories, because I was a chameleon, I had to play the game all the time. And I was always trying to get what I wanted from whoever, which also is good at helps me in my job. But you can do it with purpose and do it the right way and not do it to hurt people, right? So I think it was years. Like my best friend, one of my best friends, his son is now engaged to my daughter. And they have my first granddaughter together, which is crazy to say. But I stole his car and sold his wheels and his stereo system out of it. It's my best friend. Brought me to Pennsylvania to try to help me get clean. And 2 days into going through withdrawal, I was like, I need to go. Stole his car. That relationship was severed for 10 years, but I continued to do the right thing. Then people start to see, oh, they're different. They're not the way they used to be. So I still will feel weird sometimes in a room of people that from my past, like I'm not sure who I ripped off or who I did whatever dirt to. But I think I've made straight. It's been 22 years, it just takes time and it's not a quick, if I would have started real estate 5 years, 5 years after, I don't think I would have been successful, and I think people they forget a lot too as time grows, as time goes on. So, but I'd like that question. Yeah.
So, like the opening of the Maryland office, is that anything related to kind of redemption down in that location?
100%, dude. 150%. Yeah. The fact that you said that is that is what that is for me. In fact, Maryland for me, I want to open every corner of Maryland just to for that reason. I ran the Baltimore Marathon in 22, and that was the most incredible. So I didn't know I was running through the hood. Like you literally go through all the spots where I used to do drugs, And I got to North Avenue and I wept for like 4 miles. I was just bawling as I'm running. I'm like, and I stopped actually on the corner where I used to do all my dirt. And there was a cop standing there and I was like, sorry, I was like, hey, I just want to let you know as I'm crying. However many years ago, however, what it was then, I was like 20 years ago, I was one of these people out here on the street. And I was like, I just want to let you know that there is hope, that not everybody, you know, people do get their lives together and change. You know, he started crying. The cop actually started crying. It's like, there's not much. He's like, I don't see hope at all. He's like, it's all the same horrible every day. So, yeah, 100% right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mindy.
How were your kids whenever you gave your past history to them and how did they react?
Probably too young, because I pretty much told them everything at a very young age. Because I think I was so scared for them to I didn't drink. We didn't drink or anything for 16 years. When my older kids were growing up, I didn't touch alcohol at all. And I think real estate made me start drinking again. But,
Just the.
so yeah, we told them at a pretty young age, and I was open with them, and also not trying to scare them away from stuff. I was like, look, you're young, you're going to try these things. I was trying to let's be real about life, what's going to happen. So, and if you want to do these things, let's have a conversation about it. And my kids have all been okay so far. 14-year-old that's a little wild, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I was at a young age they knew about it. Yes, ma'am.
You said you sold 20-something houses your first year. So what did you do? What skills did you use to?
I think I was just, I'll be honest, I was so hungry.
What year was
And
that?
it was like 2016, so it was great. Everything you touched was sold, pretty much. 6% or 6% assistance, every deal was getting done, you know, over and over again. I was buying leads at that point, and I remember asking somebody that was successful in real estate. I was like, "So what do you do?" They're like, "I buy leads." Well, what do you spend? And they told me what they spent. I was like, "I can't afford that." You know, I think I started spending $150 a month. My very first lead I got, I ended up closing. I'd never done a multiple offers presentation. I had to go into the house with the owner and the agent and present the numbers at the table. I was like shaking, you know, I was so nervous. $100,000 down on top. So I was like, this is, hopefully we're going to get it. We ended up getting it. So I think I made $7,000 on that deal. And I was like, okay, I'm taking more of this money and dumping it into lead generation. And by the end of that year, I was spending $3,500 a month on lead generation, and leads are not as good as they were back then. They're not. I mean, they're really not. I am still spending money on leads for my little crew of people that I have working with me, but they're not as good as they used to be.
Who's your crew?
Huh?
Who's your crew?
Well, it's my family. We're getting there. So my daughter, my 20-year-old, my Penn State daughter, she is getting her license. So I have two kids that are both my daughter and my son's friends that are working with me. So I'm just kind of feeding these youngins some leads and trying to get them going. And I would like to have a little family team that's just us, and you know, I think that would be kind of cool. So, to be able to help your family grow. You know, what were we gonna say?
So your consistency and determination really push you to succeed. Is that what you?
I think I finally felt the freedom in real estate and with Iron Valley. Oh, and I'm not just throwing a little plug in there for Iron Valley, but I felt like everything else was the same. Business was always the same. It was always like you get pulled into something, and it was never what they said it was. You know what I mean? There was always a caveat that was, well, but there's always that but. So when I realized Iron Valley wasn't that, you know, as I was like, this is awesome. Like, I literally can write my ticket. So coming from the business that I was in, where it was all about making money for that company, now I can do it for myself. And I think that just, you know, fired me up quite a bit, you know, to get me moving in the right direction. So. Yes, ma'am.
So you mentioned earlier about stealing your best friend's car.
Yeah.
Did you ever find another car?
Do you wanna? I'm actually stealing yours right now. I have people out there on the lot right now. No, I did not. I did not. But There's retribution that's been paid. Trust me. No, I should have bought him another car.
If you give his family a child.
I actually was gonna buy the exact car that I took not that long ago and drop it at his house, just because the car was fine. It was up on blocks in Baltimore, but it was fine.
What, how does your wife handle your day to day? And again, she's a nurse
Mhm.
and Erica is one of the most amazing people.
Yes,
But
cool.
how does she handle the weight that you carry with owning the brokerage and selling real estate?
She is a friggin' saint. That's all I can say. Yeah, I guess when in the car business, she was not. She was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. You know, because there it's, oh, I have people that are gonna come in at 7. I'm supposed to be leaving at 5, and then I stay till 7, and then the people don't show up, and then I'm missing whatever I was gonna miss, or never home for dinner. Erica, she always said I was a single mom and she was. I mean, she really was. And all the car business moms all hung out together because all of the husbands were at work for 16 hours a day. But I think she's awesome. Sounding board. Just calling her today before this and complaining about something, you know. And she's like, "Oh, here we go." And she's working as a nurse, and I'm complaining to her about my little piddly stuff that doesn't matter, and she's saving lives, you know. So yeah, she's great. I don't know if I answered your question.
And how many kids do you have?
I think 4.
You said-
I have 4 kids. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking engagements, like at schools or?
So, you know, you're funny, I've done a couple, but I would love to do it more and like get polished and do it. So yeah, I would love to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the young generation needs to hear your story.
All right. Well, if you got any schools, line me up. I'll do it.
We're his guinea pigs.
Yeah, for me, that would be more important. I'm a part of the board of the Lebanon County YMCA. And I'm doing things within that. I'm trying to do things within that. But I would love to go and speak to kids. I mean, to me, and I always say I love bad kids. Because bad kids are just kids that weren't loved or missing something, you know. So it's really just a conversation that could change somebody's life or even put them in the right direction. There's conversations from people when I was 16. I remember, I still hear the words today. You know, I didn't change at that time, but those words still ring in my head, and it did plant a seed into a direction that you should go. So thank you for saying that. Let's talk about you a little bit.
Let's not.
I have, so you and I, we've talked before, and I know one time you had mentioned to me, one of the biggest like impacts in your life was when you got arrested
Oh,
and a police officer said to you that you are never going to amount to anything.
mm.
Those
And
words
how-
right there, that doesn't.
Mm. Yeah, that day, that whole day rings in my head. So, you know, when you're in and out of, when you're a heroin addict, you know, you'll get 3 days clean, you know, and I'm gonna get clean and I do 3 days. I don't use anymore, you know, I'm good now. It was never good, you know, but I would, you know, so this was one of those occasions. I think it was 4 days I hadn't used. So I'm ready to go. I get to the city and there was cars, we call them the knockers. So they were undercover cars that would drive around the city and you wouldn't know. I mean, I knew what the brakes sounded like on them, so we would know where they were. But I went and bought a syringe from, they called them the Works down there. So I went and bought a set of Works for $1. And I'm walking around the corner and I see the 50 police Mustang pull up and the paddy wagon pulls up behind me. I'm like, here we go, you know, and I was like, I don't even use. And he looks at me and he said, the cop said, as he's throwing me in the back of the paddy wagon, I'm gonna say what he said. What's a fucking junkie? Always a junkie. And he threw me in the back. And I was like, man. But it was true. At that moment, he was right. I mean, at that moment, he was jaded too. And looking back to seeing that's all you see all day long, you're gonna feel the same way. So that rang in my brain for years and years and years, and it still does. And I would love to see that cop today. I would love to see him, but he probably wouldn't even remember that. He's probably dead. He's probably old. Yeah.
Oh, man, what
Probably as
a,
old as John Wigan.
what a meet.
Means he's alive and kicking.
Yeah.
What does Iron Valley mean to you?
Iron Valley is redemption to me in a lot of ways, you know, because of what, hey, you can't leave. No, it's redemption in a lot of ways. And I think that keeps, it's proven to me that anybody can do anything that you set your mind to. If you want it, I don't care what it is. This is what I want to beat into people's brains, especially real estate agents that are working for us or forever. Literally, you can do whatever you want. You just have to want it. That's it. And you execute. That's it. And you'll have it. If I can go from living on the street to owning a business that's successful, now it's not all me. I mean, I have good partners, and the four of us together are what make us who we are. Because if it wasn't for Adam and for Rob and for Lisa, we wouldn't be where we are. We all work together, right? But if I can do that, anybody can. You know, I was a complete freaking loser. So yeah, if I can do it, anybody can do whatever they want. Sorry. Even you.
I
Even you can
I
do
mean,
it.
one day at a time, one day at a time, complete loser over here. Great questions, guys. Anything else? Anything from anybody at home?
I remember when you ran the marathon.
Yeah.
And you posted after that, that you declared victory over the city that almost killed you.
Yep.
And it seems like a lot of your story is going back and setting things right
Mm,
that were left upended.
Yep.
You know, until you found your way.
Yep.
Is there anything left that you need to go back and set right that will, you know, kind of bring things full circle for you?
I have
Not to
made,
get personal.
well, it's not that, like, yeah, know my whole story now anyway. I think most of it is done. You know, the only people, when I say most of it's done, I've made amends to all the people that I wanted to make amends to. I've made things right that, you know, the karma balance has been restored. You know, there were years that things would happen to me and I was like, and they were like, why are you upset? I was like, because I deserve it. You know, I deserve it. I did so much stuff to other people. So I was like, you know, now it finally, like it's balanced a little bit, but I've made amends to all the people that I needed to make amends to as people. The ones that I'm not able to, that passed away, that bothers me, you know. My grandmother, we were tight and she never really got to see me successful. So that bothers me. You know.
So you're at this point where you feel the scales are balanced.
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
What do you think, you know, when your 14-year-old wild child, whenever he's set on the right course and you're an empty nester, what do you do to pay it forward beyond that? What's your goal there?
That whole psychology thing, like something along with working with kids is, and I'm not even thinking financial gain. If we continue to grow the way we're growing, I would do it whatever for free, just to help.
You heard that. It's on camera, right?
I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Something that gives life to other people, or whatever that looks like. You know, music. Could host drum circles at my house. I don't know. You know, but yeah, I definitely want to do something along those lines. I just don't know what that looks like quite yet. Go to a lot of music festivals.
Healing through music.
Yeah.
I have to know then, who's your favorite artist, group, and music
Ooh,
genre? I
a
know
lot.
that's hard.
Yeah, lots. So I don't. Which genre do you want me to? So reggae music is that's my favorite music. I love reggae music because it's positive. It's always good. Bob Marley never gets old. Been listening to it, you know, his songs to me never get old.
Steel drums never.
Steel drums are great. I like the Grateful Dead. I like the Doors. So I'm biracial, so yeah, you're gonna get both. You know, I like Biggie. I love Biggie. Electronic music is, man, there's so many. LTJ Bookham, which you've never heard of. So you're like, what the heck is that? I'm sure nobody in here has ever heard of it. UK drum and bass DJ. So yeah, I love music, period. But mostly 90s hip hop. New stuff is garbage.
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
younger guys, new stuff is garbage. Yeah, mostly reggae. Like if
The Austin live music capital.
I have not.
Oh my God.
No,
Bucket
check it
list,
out.
maybe?
check it out. Maybe I'll check it out.
Okay, if you could look at a crystal ball and see your future, what do you want it to look like?
I want it to look like happy family, number one, grandkids running around. That for me is,
That's it.
Yeah,
Everything else just.
everybody happy and healthy. That's all that matters. Yeah, all the rest of it is icing, right?
Question over here.
At what point did you get comfortable with who you are as a biracial man? And
Mhm.
how do you impart that into your children to let them know they have a biracial?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think when I moved to Maryland, when I moved to Baltimore, I realized, oh, there's people that look like me, that talk like me. You know, everybody would say, why don't you act black? You know, and I was like, so how do you act a color? You know, so when I moved to the city, I found people that were exactly like me, who were, you know, educated, whatever. Not that I was educated. I mean, you get what I'm saying. I definitely wasn't educated. But I think at that point I started to feel more comfortable in my skin, and that was when I started to feel better about myself and stop caring what other people think. I still don't know that I'm 100% comfortable in my skin to this day, honestly, to this day in that aspect, depending on where I am, you know. But with my kids, it's funny. My daughter should always say she's a quarterback. She's a quarterback. And my son Keone says he's black. He looks Italian, you know. But I've always told them, and I try to instill in other people that have biracial kids, if they're a white family, you have to know where you come from to know where you're going. And if you don't teach that to your kids, I think that is the biggest thing. So they know everything about my past. They know everything about Black history. Like I teach them both, and they don't struggle with who they are at all. So that to me that's a win. That's a win.
Okay. Anything else?
Cool.
So we haven't talked very much about Iron Valley, really. It's been the Corey show. So what's,
So that's what we were talking about.
That was on the billing.
Yeah, I think I was on the billing.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you are our Christie. You know
Correct.
that, right? You two are two of a kind. And in knowing you for the number of years that I have, so I've been around since 2018, so I've been around since almost the beginning, is that you take a lot on your shoulders every day, internalize it, and we don't hear you complain a lot. How do you deal with everything that's going on, take it on your shoulders, and maintain that positiveness? Because, you know, Christy
Heroin.
does it.
Stop.
No.
So,
No.
and the reason I'm asking this is because my partner goes through these same struggles, right?
Mhm.
So, and she burns out just like, talk to her.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
I don't. I mean, I think like we were talking earlier, I feel like there's times that it's good and there's times that it's not. And I think knowing that and being comfortable with your own cycle, like I know what my cycle is. I know that it's 3 months of this, and it can be a month, sometimes 2 months of this, and then I'm back at it again, and it's like this. It is hard to be positive all the time, and you already know this. It's hard to be when I know that I'm not, or I feel cynical when I pick up the phone and someone says something and I'm, you know, giving them the little jab. I'm like, all right, it's time to put the phone down. So I do. And sometimes I just need to recharge and not pick up the phone. And then I feel like, okay, now I'm ready to go. And I'm coming out of one of those, like I said, but I've also been sick and having weird stuff going on. And then I'll go back and I'll hammer the phones for 2 weeks straight and I will crush it. And then I'll get people coming in and then I'll may fall back again. But I feel like it's a cycle of any honest, if you're being honest, there's nobody that can be on in recruiting all the time. And if you are, I would love to know what drug you're on, because I don't, it's hard. I mean, it takes a lot out of you, because you're schmoozing all day long and kissing butt, right? You are.
Like real estate agent.
No different. Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's an
really-
emotional investment and
Mhm.
there's only so much you can go to.
My wife's like, you're not work hard. I'm like, yeah, but it's mentally exhausting, you know? It is hard work.
Yeah.
It is hard work. Not as hard as her.
So what's coming with Iron Valley? You know, you got Charm City. What's on the horizon?
What's
for the
next?
Company, yeah, what's coming
Yeah,
next?
what's next?
We have a bunch of stuff working, like you guys, I'm sure all saw the new logo and, the change of our backend system again and again and again and again. Sorry. I mean, the goal is to continue doing what we're doing, right? To continue the growth that we have. Actually want to increase that growth, right? Nationwide, we do have a California office in the works with one of our franchisees from Virginia Beach, so that'll be coming soon. And I have about 5 more that I'm working. I'm always working like 5. It's always seemed to be the number 5 to 6 deals, but that doesn't ever mean anything until they come to fruition. So,
What states are you looking at? States you
Connecticut right now, Connecticut, Texas, couple more in Pennsylvania, and there's another place, Michigan. I lie, not Michigan, Northern California. There's a possible Michigan, but it's not. I can't really call it. I call them if I have a call with them, then it's a possibility, right? Don't you do that?
Yeah.
You have to stay positive in order to. Did I answer your question, Christopher?
Where in Pennsylvania?
I'm not telling you. None of your business, sir.
Hawaii, getting there yet?
Obviously, I'm not.
Right.
Yeah, it's not happening. Yeah, it's not happening. I really wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But then the realization of working a 6-hour time difference. I'd be working all night at weird times. It wouldn't work.
Yeah, and you like your wife, so
I do.
let's keep that.
I do. I really do, Erica. I do like you. Thank you guys all for being here too, and for being an agent, working with us and believing in us.
Well,
Pretty
thank you,
cool.
Corey. We appreciate everything you bring to us.
Thank you for your openness.
No, I think it's okay.
Good way to be.
Go.
That's it.
Thank
We
you.
done? Thanks, guys.
Done.
I just shut it off, didn't I?